Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right. Yeah, Nico and Joey have been ranked. And Connor, you just ruin everything. You know that? You really do.
You beat everything. You know that.
We're going to get into all of this today. Now, as many of you know, the Tennessee Vols have been getting heavily disrespected ever since the whole Nico thing. He runs off to UCLA and pulls his little Lane Kiffin stunt. And it's been very steady, just article after article, wearing out the Vols about how they're just not that cool anymore. And the media's letting them have it every chance they get.
Well, I'm here to tell you that you're probably going to find out as you go out there that you're not going to amount to jack squat.
Yep. And I showed you several of these things. We've been knocked out of the top 25 going into the season. ESPN's top 25. Of course, we've lived in the top 10 the last 3 years. We finished 6th, like 15th, and then 6th or 7th last year. And now we're outside of the top 25. But we did get one special thing. Yeah, right here, we got into those receiving votes. So at least we did receive a few votes to get into the top 25, but we didn't get in them. There's nothing worse than those receiving votes. I mean, that's just a slap in the face. Then they came out with an article talking about the teams with the bleakest quarterback situations. And where did we wind up? Under dishonorable mentions. And it talked about the Vols losing high upside quarterback Nico, replaced him with a solid, if unspectacular, Joey Aguilar from UCLA and then really from App State. And then talking about our backups, Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre. So the disrespect has been hot and heavy. Well, another article came out today ranking both Nico and Joey Aguilar. And it's the top 50. Top 50 out of what's there, there's 130 teams. So if you take the top 50 starters, it's pretty easy to get in that, you would think. And let's see how we did. This is on 247 Sports. And where did we land? Number 50.
Oh, hell no!
I guess I should kind of spin this positively and say, well, at least we didn't wind up with those receiving votes. But out of 50, we're 50th. We're out of the top 25. We've been put on the dishonorable list. And now we're 50th out of 50. Last place. Let's see what he says about Joey. It says, will the former Appy State and UCLA transfer, and he was only there for 3 months, will he win the starting job after summer arrival in Knoxville? He has big shoes to fill following Nico's departure. So let's see where Nico wound up. Nico wound up 19th. It says, despite the ground game focus, Iamaleava helped guide Tennessee to a playoff berth, which he did. He had 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, 350 yards on the ground. By the way, 19 touchdowns is the lowest number of TDs by any quarterback in Josh Heupel's history as a head coach and even as an offensive coordinator. Yeah, these were all his quarterbacks over the years. Now, this Kent Myers, he was 19-3, but I don't know what team that might have been when Drew Lock took over. And I think it might have been the same year. That was at Missouri, I believe, where he was the offensive coordinator. But as soon as he took over, Drew Lock went from 24 to 45. And then you can see his other quarterbacks, Mackenzie Milton, who was a terrific quarterback down at UCF. Then Dylan Gabriel, who just got drafted. He had over 30. Then you can see Hendon Hooker was phenomenal with 31, 27 in his injury year and had very few interceptions. And then Joe Milton, who, look, he had 20, but he overthrew at least 10. He probably could have had 30 himself. And Nico the same way. Nico had 19. He could have had easily mid to high 20s if he just hits guys that are wide open. He missed 3 in the Alabama game alone. So anyway, now we're 50th out of 50. We're on the dishonorable list, and we're out of the top 25. And there's your ranking. Nico 19th. And I think they kind of pushed him up a little, not up, but down. He probably would have been top 15 had he been on Tennessee's team. They're just, look, don't over-expect. He's going to have a very makeshift offensive line at UCLA. He's not going to have a 5-star wide receiver and a bunch of 4-stars. He's going to have a decent wide receiver group. and he's going to be learning a brand new offense, and it's probably not going to get the ball out of his hands very quickly. He's got a brand new offensive coordinator that has never called a play. So that probably pushed him down to 19, if I had to guess.
Oh, that's a shame.
But anyway, there's your rankings. 50th out of 50. The disrespect continues. Anyway, now we need to talk about Connor Stalions, who ruins everything. Now, one of the things that we haven't talked about a lot, I've talked to you about the South Carolina connection, that I believe that he sent the signals and signs of our team to South Carolina to wreck our 2022 season to the playoff that we were headed to. We were number one offensive team in the country, and we only had one loss. And of course, you know, Michigan wanted to derail us and Clemson, so they scouted both our teams, and I believe sent our signs and signals to South Carolina to derail us, or to an analyst or somebody on that team. I can't prove it, but boy, all the evidence points that way. But one thing we haven't talked about is how incredible Connor Stalions affected Michigan from before he got there and then after. So let's take a little look at the numbers. Prior to Connor Stalions getting there, according to artificial intelligence, which I've seen a bunch of people put these together, but prior, Jim Harbaugh's record, his coaching record, was 69-24. That's Harbaugh's record at Michigan prior to 2021. Remember those numbers, 69-24, which is not terrible, but he was about to get fired. As a matter of fact, he had to take a 50% pay cut to keep his job because Michigan was not happy. And of course, he couldn't beat Ohio State to save his life. Well, then old Connor showed up. Let's see, following Stalions, 13-1. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's see, they went 40-3 over those 3 years. They lost 3 games. So let's see, prior to him, they lost 24 games. When he got there, during 3 years, they lost 3 games. Which is better, 24 losses or 3? Now, granted, they played more games during that time prior to him getting there, but even if you doubled that number to 6, it'd be 24 losses versus 6. So he dropped their losses by over 75%. That's a pretty strong effect, don't you think? $60,000 a year as an analyst. He's just a guy that's supposed to be, you know, looking up things for the coaches and kind of being a gopher. But he wound up not only on the sideline, right next to the offensive coordinator, right next to Jim Harbaugh. He even got a game ball at one point. You're going to give a game ball to an analyst? Must have been a pretty special analyst, that's for sure. So that's the difference he made. I wonder what kind of a difference he made when it came to Vegas. You know, Vegas is pretty good at handicapping games and kind of knowing the point spreads and all that. As a matter of fact, that's what they do for a living. If they're not good at it, they get fired. I wonder how Michigan did prior to Connor, during Connor, and then after. Well, it just so happens there's a show on YouTube called Buckeye Scoop, and they had a guy by the name of Justin Spiro on last night as a guest. And this guy knocked it out of the park. Watch this.
And this was a little bit updated in real time. I've gone back and done the homework on this. People say, oh, Michigan only got better in those 3 years because of the NFL talent, and they finally got a quarterback. Here's what the problem is with that among it. Forget the fact that they recruited off the momentum of the cheating and all that. That's a whole other argument. The Las Vegas point spread adjusts for all that stuff in real time. And they went from 2015 to 2020, from Harbaugh's arrival through COVID, 32, 38, and 1, 45.7% win percentage against the spread over a huge sample size, 45.7. From 21 to 23, the entirety of the cheating window, 28, 13, and 2, 68.3. That program got 22% better overnight while they were cheating. What happened last year? 6 and 7, 46%. They were 45.7, jumped by 22% for 3 years, and then went right back to 46.1, basically. Now, small sample size, but it's the same exact number they were at before they were cheating. If that were the entirety of the evidence here, fine. I agree it's insufficient to prove anything, but it's another brick on the wall that you can build to block out any sense of legitimacy from their run. I can't look at a huge sample size of games where you're covering not, and forget winning. Oh, we got more good players. Yeah, Vegas adjusts for that, guys. What Vegas can adjust for is cheating, because if they knew it was going on immediately, they would call everyone they needed to call, including the FBI, the second they found out. They didn't know that was happening, which is why you're talking about a 22% variance over a large sample size that immediately disappeared when the cheating window ended and restored back to that 46% within less than half of 1% of what they had been for the first 5 years under Harbaugh. At what point are we having to suspend so much disbelief where not only am I throwing out common sense, not only am I throwing out an objective number of suspensions more than double the second worst case in the history of the NCAA in any program, now I'm looking at a near decade-long data set of the smartest cutthroat killers in Vegas that are just math whizzes that don't care about the Block M or the Buckeyes or Little Brother in East Lansing or any of that nonsense. They just look at facts and they don't care about anything else. And even they are saying they outperformed that number by 22% and then immediately, overnight, restored to within less than half of 1% of where they were for 5 years prior.
Yeah, and right here, he put it on X. There's their winning percentage, 2015 to 2020, so you can see it in picture form, 457. Then they went 28, 13, and 2, so 68% against the spread, and then right on back down to 46% in 2024. Now, if you know anything about Vegas, these guys aren't off that much. They don't miss by 20-some-odd points over a 3-year span. They even had to adjust as it went along and still missed it back bad. And Michigan, who lost 3 games during that period of time, right here, 40-3, lost 3 games over that 3 years. How many games did they lose last year when Stallions wasn't a part of the team and had no effect on it? 5. They lost 3 over 3 years, 5 as soon as he's gone, the first year. Right on back to their typical 4 or 5 losses a year, which is what they did under Jim Harbaugh prior, which you look right here when they were 69-24. They were about an 8-4 team. So what does that got to do with South Carolina? Why would that have any impact there? Well, let's take a look at that game in 2022. Let's see if Vegas had it right or wrong. Let's see. Tennessee was favored by 22.5 points in their game against South Carolina. The over and under was 66.5. So a point spread of 22.5. South Carolina won 63-38, scored 9 straight touchdowns. A team that had not scored but 16 points the previous 2 games against Missouri and Florida, 1 touchdown and 3 field goals in 2 ball games against 2 teams that were under 500 that year. Then they come and they kick Tennessee and Clemson's butt, who were both playoff bound. And they reverse Vegas's numbers astronomically. Tennessee favored 22.5 and loses by 25. That is a 47.5 point miss by Vegas. Their over and under was 66.5. It wound up being 101. Look how much they missed the over and under by. 101? Are you kidding me? A team that couldn't score at all, averaging 8 points a game, score 63? Give me a break. So they miss the point spread by 47.5 points. Vegas. The odds of that are so below 1%, I can't even begin to tell you. The bell curve on that would be the stupidest thing you've ever seen. It'd be over here somewhere where you couldn't even tell where the graph ended. But I guess we're supposed to just say, oh, well, these things happen. Maybe they do. Once in a blue moon, once in 1,000 times. They don't happen consistently. When Connor's involved, though, for some reason, whenever Connor's involved, poof, magic happens. People in Vegas turn into idiots. They don't know what they're doing all of a sudden. And then as soon as he's gone, they go right back to where they were, which was right down the middle, around 50%, because that's where they live. And by the way, Buckeye Scoop has covered this incredibly well. That guy knocked it out of the park the whole damn night. That was a great video. If you hadn't seen it, it's terrific. I mean, they've done a great job covering this. But anyway, I just thought y'all ought to see that. You should understand the effect Connor had on this whole thing, in my opinion.
Allegedly.
And think how many people lost their jobs. How many people got hurt financially over this? People that were betting on their team. How about the coaches and assistant coaches that got fired because Michigan absolutely pantsed them for 3 straight years, and their donors quit donating, they got fired, they got let go, probably caused all kinds of family issues. But no, we're supposed to just look past that. That's why you're not allowed to cheat. Ugh. But nobody wants to talk about that. Well, somebody needs to. I guess that's Buckeye Scoop's doing a pretty good job of it. But anyway, I did want to show you that because Vegas is not stupid. The odds of that happening are almost, it can't happen, okay?
It's in the billions. It cannot happen, would not happen.
So anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's be able to continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, hit that little button right there. Won't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here is a video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy based on your viewing history. And we will see you next time on Sports Talk J.
I'm just curious. I saw you shuffling your checks with your right hand. Can you do that with both hands?
No.